You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in. Okay, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Yash Chavan, the CEO and founder over at SARAL. So Yash, welcome to the show.
Pat, thank you so much for having me on. I've loved all of our conversations before recording, and I'm excited to chat with you here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm so glad we could get you on today because listeners, if you've listened to any of the past episodes, one of the guests that we brought on a couple weeks back, Amber, gave a shout out to SARAL like half a dozen times. I promise she's not even getting any sort of referral commission for this. So afterwards I said, hey, can you put me in touch with Yash? We have to see if we can get him on the pod as well. So Yash, thank you for taking all the hounding and deciding to join us for today.
No, I'm pumped that Amber said all those nice things about us. Although you're right, she's not getting anything for it, which is great, which is what I love about working with our customers and building the product that we are. So we get lots of good word of mouth. Love to hear it.
You may have a new future head of sales joining your team at some point in the future. Oh, man. Well, Yash, before we get too deep, could you start out giving us a little bit of an overview of what SARAL actually does and kind of how you got started building the company?
Yeah, sure. So SARAL basically is, picture a situation where I'm sure everybody has seen influencers promote products on their feeds on TikTok, on YouTube, Instagram, you name it, right? So let's say there's a fitness influencer who's promoting a certain health supplement, right? There's a lot of things that happen in the background. The health supplement brand has to find this influencer, contact them, figure out a good way to work together, figure out a way to pay them, do a contract, ensure that they're posting about the product in a certain time period or a certain number of times, whatever the contract says, and also ending up paying them, right? So there's a lot of process that goes behind something that we see on the surface level as consumers, which is an influencer shouting out a brand. SARAL is what takes care of the process for brands like this particular health supplement who may be wanting to find influencers, contact them, track the sales that come from their campaigns, pay these influencers, and so on. So SARAL is a platform that manages all of this for over 250 brands right now on the platform.
Well, awesome, Yash. Let's talk a little about influencer marketing and really what sort of businesses it's best suited for. Would you say influencer marketing is a smart investment for, let's say, every B2C, every e-com business that's out there? Are there certain businesses that it's a no-brainer investment for? And then maybe other businesses that you say, hey, I really wouldn't recommend you put money into this channel. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, good question. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said e-commerce or consumer D2C businesses. We believe, and that's our vision at SARAL also, is that if you're selling to consumers, you have to work with influencers because people don't trust ads anymore. They swipe away whenever they see an ad on social media. Nobody is really clicking on an ad and buying. That doesn't really work anymore. They don't trust brands and statements that come from brands because there's so many brands, there's so many of these, it's almost commoditized. Let's take an example of we were talking about the health supplement, right? Like there's so many health brands, all of them making the same exact claims, like this will keep you fit, this will make sure that you get all your nutrients and micronutrients and this and that. Who do you trust, right? That's the fundamental problem for consumers. And I think the way to solve that is you work with a niche group of influencers that specifically promote your brand over others. So if you're selling to consumers, influencers are really a smart decision to start working with. Maybe to answer the other side of the question, which is who should not work with influencers, I don't think it is necessarily by industry. I mean, I guess if you're B2B, there isn't that many influencers to work with. But even if let's just talk about the consumer world, I don't think it's by industry. We have all sorts of brands on SARAL, like we have fitness brands, beauty brands, brands that sell all sorts of stuff, CBD brands, and so on. So we haven't really seen a variation between industry. What we have seen in cases where it doesn't work is cases where they have very bad reviews or they don't have a very good product, right? So generally, if you have bad reviews, if you don't get good word of mouth, if there's not enough repeat purchase behavior, I think your time may be better spent focusing on first creating that good initial word of mouth and good reviews and so on, and then amplifying that with influencers because influencers are amplifiers. If you have something good, they'll make it great. you have something bad, they'll make it sound worse than it is, right? So yeah.
To your point of the amplification side of things, yeah, if you don't necessarily have the best product, if customers aren't too happy with your product as is, if you're getting a lot of 1-star reviews on Amazon, like maybe don't work with influencers quite yet. See if you can improve the product a little bit, because you don't necessarily want to pay a bunch of money and have influencers just trashing your product. So let's say for the businesses listening, assuming listeners have really great products, they have great online reviews, happy existing customers, and they say, hey, Yash, you've totally sold me. I'm going to get started on influencer marketing right now. Let's walk through, how would you actually go about setting up your first influencer marketing campaign? I'll bow to your judgment here. Is a good starting place, though, talking about like maybe how do you actually go about finding the right influencers first?
Yes, perfect question, because we did this so I used to run an agency before we started building the platform that is SARAL. And we've actually done this process at the agency for about a dozen or so brands. And with SARAL now is over 250 brands that are on the platform. We consult with all of them. So I know how I've seen hundreds of brands pretty much now who've started influencers from scratch and taking it to success. And there's almost a system that I've made out of it. I call it the predictable influence system. I'd love to share that. And yes, it does start with step 1, which is finding influencers. So crystallize who are the right sets of influencers that you should work with. What are their values? What do they talk about? Philosophically, do they align? So for instance, if you are a vegan supplements brand, you wouldn't want to work with an influencer who espouses the carnivore diet or who's doing meal prep with chicken breast. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that if you're a vegan brand, you don't want to work with somebody who says the complete opposite. Same for, let's say, we actually had this happen. One of our clients was a minimal skincare brand, and they intentionally had less products because that was their philosophy, was that you don't need to put a lot of product on your skin to take care of it. You can just use these 3 products and that's it. You don't need like 12. So they worked with an influencer, and then about a few weeks later, the same influencer endorsed a makeup brand. Now, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with minimal skincare or with makeup. It's just that using less product on your skin is completely antithetical to using makeup, right? So make sure that your step 1, find the right set of influencers. So I usually recommend finding your first maybe 50 or 100 influencers before you send outreach. So find a very niche group of influencers. Step 2 is, before you reach out, and most people miss this, is create what I call a compelling creator offer. So make sure that you have something of value to offer to creators. The mistake that most brands make is that they tend to just assume that influencers will want to work with them because obviously I've built this brand, we have these great products, of course they want to work with us, right? But no, like they get approached by dozens of brands with similar claims every single week. So you want to stand out. So you want to offer something that the others are not offering. You want to understand something about the influencer that the other brands are not necessarily understanding. So if I give you an example, generally a creator offer consists of 3 parts. Part 1 is an offer for the creator. So, hey, we'll offer you a fee, or we'll offer you affiliate commissions, or we'll offer you free product, or whatever it is, right? So that's part 1, is what do you offer the creator? Part 2 is an offer for their audience. So what do you offer their audience? Why should they buy from this influencer's link? This may be a discount. This may be a buy one, get one free offer. This may be any sort of offer that you can create specifically for this influencers. Usually brands will do a discount of some sort, which is why when you see influencers say, hey, use my code PAT15 when you buy, because you'll get a 15% off when you use PAT's link, right? So that's the second part. And the third part is any perks or special things that only your brand can do for this influencer. This sets you apart because any brand can offer a discount. Any brand can offer payments or affiliate commissions. What not every brand even thinks of offering is what else can we do for this creator to help them grow. So what can we do? Live sessions with them? Can we do a giveaway for their Instagram audience? Can we call them at our manufacturing facility to take a tour? Like anything that you can add on top as a criteria or as an additional bonus really goes a long way in convincing influencers to work with you, because they actually see that, hey, this brand actually put some thought into what they're offering. So that's step 2, is you make a good creator offer. Step 3 is outreach. So, there are 6 steps. Step 3 is outreach. So you want to reach out to influencers with the right pitch. Most brands talk a lot about themselves in the pitch because You want to communicate everything possible about how great you are with the influencer. But most influencers at the initial touch don't really care. So if you're highly recommend emailing influencers, not DMing, because DMs just get lost in the requests folder and you likely won't get responded to. Email them. Their emails are usually available in their bios, or if you use a tool like SARAL, you can just find any influencer's email on the platform and you can send them a campaign. Generally with outreach, I recommend following like a 3-part structure, 1 or 2 lines about the brand, 1 or 2 lines about what you're offering, which is your creator offer, which you created in step 2. And then 1 last line asking with a low effort CTA, something like, would you be open to working together, as opposed to, can you post about us on the 5th of September? Something like that. So make sure that the call to action is pretty low effort for the creator to say yes to, or you could say, do you mind if I send you a free product before you say yes? This CTA works best because they don't have to do anything. You just say yes, send you their address, and you're good to go. Right? So get buy-in, make it easy for the influencer to buy into your offer. So that's general framework around how you would reach out. Then comes onboarding. So once they say, yes, send me the free product, would love to try it, don't send them a cardboard box. Make sure that you're really crafting the unboxing experience for the influencer. Gift wrap it, add a personal note, send more product than what you initially promised. If you're sending swag, send company swag, personalize their products. So there are brands, for example, that it's a fitness brands. One of our brands personalized shakers because they used to sell a protein supplement. So they sent the protein supplement and a shaker bottle with the person's name on it, right? So they didn't promise that, but they did that. And when you do that, it makes somebody feel special. It makes somebody feel like you're gifting something to them, as opposed to just a brand shipping a free product in a cardboard box, right? So make sure that you take the onboarding experience very seriously. And then they start posting about you, right? So when the product is really good, the unboxing is great, they take out their phone. Influencers want content, right? Like that's what they live for. So they start posting. Then step 5 comes tracking. So again, if you're using a tool like SARAL, you can track everything in one place, but you need to track how many times has this person posted about us? What are the number of clicks on their links? How many customers have come through this influencer? What is the average order value that comes from this influencer? Brands are sometimes surprised. The AOV from influencers is usually 2 to 3 times what the regular AOV is. And that's because people trust influencers more. They tend to buy more. Right. So that's step 5 is track all of these metrics so that you inform everything else. You will eventually build patterns like, hey, when I work with a bodybuilding influencer, I generally see this they generally post twice or thrice and then they don't post again. But when I work with a yoga influencer, they tend to post about us a lot of times and they get us a lot of sales. So then that informs all the other steps of who you find out, your creator offer, how you reach out to them, and so on. And the final step, if you just do these 5 steps, you're good. Like you have a good influencer program. You don't have to do anything else. But if you go from good to great by doing step 6, which is relationship building. So you want to make sure that you're building true relationships with these people. So don't end it at just you sent a product, they posted about you a few times and then it's over, right? And if it's over, then all of the effort you put into this before that point is wasted. So you want to capitalize on that. You want to graduate them into some sort of a rev share system, or you can do a long-term deal with them where you pay them, let's say, a retainer and they post about you a certain number of times, or at the very least, keep sending them free products so they keep posting about you and that relationship is maintained. So generally, these are the 6 steps I would follow if I'm a new brand building an influencer program. Is, again, just to recap, find your best batch of first 50 to 100 influencers, make a really compelling creator offer, send them outreach, preferably via email, and follow the 3-part system that I shared. Make sure you don't skip on the onboarding experience, which is the unboxing, the sending a personal note, impressing with everything that you send, and so on. Track performance, because that's critical feedback for all the other steps. And then finally, build long-lasting relationships with creators. And that is how you do this over 6 months, and you build a great marketing moat around your brand where influencers are just constantly promoting you. You don't have to worry about sales ever again. Not as easy as that last part, but you get the point.
And yes, I would just describe it as like the perfect framework for any do-it-yourselfer out there to build a really successful influencer marketing program. a few follow-ups I'd love to dive in within there. Obviously, SARAL provides all of this functionality within the platform. Let's say for maybe the businesses that aren't quite at a stage where they'd be ready to invest in like an influencer marketing software that really want to stay frugal, they want to take the do-it-yourself approach. I'd love to talk through how they could maybe do some of those things prior to being ready to working with a platform like SARAL. Starting out, first of all, let's say in terms of finding influencers, what are some good ways, some good tricks for businesses out there to actually go about finding influencers? Whether you want to say like, hey, here's some good strategies for Instagram, here's good strategies for TikTok. Your call if it's better to focus on one platform or just speak more broadly.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to focus on one platform when you start, and the platform where most of your customers are most active. Usually for most brands, it tends to be TikTok, unless you're specifically like, if you're selling to students, for example, they tend to be more on TikTok nowadays. Or let's say you're selling to moms, tend to be more on Pinterest, and even some older women and people in general tend to be on Facebook more often. But generally, everybody is on Instagram. As a ballpark thumb rule, consider Instagram as the best place to start. And how do you find influencers without a tool like SARAL? Very simple. Go on Instagram, search for a good hashtag. Let's stick to the same example. You're a health supplement company. You would search for something like hashtag healthy eating, for example. Like what? So the question you have to ask yourself is, what are my ideal? Don't search for mistakes that brands make, is that they search for their niche. So a supplement brand would search for hashtag supplements. The magic about that is when you search for hashtag supplements, guess what? A lot of other supplement brands come up. No influencer pops up when you search for an industry hashtag, or you search for something like beauty or fashion or something like that, right? It's very broad, very industry specific. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what are my ideal customers posting about? Or like, I'm sure everyone listening to this knows some of their customers personally. They've spoken to them. Think about one person who's like your ideal customer. Like, what will that person post about on social media? And then like, if you're a health supplement, you're probably posting about healthy workout or like morning routine or healthy diet or hashtag yoga instructor or something like that, right? They're posting that. They're not posting about hashtag supplements, right? So find people under these avenues. Search for a hashtag. Instagram is going to show you all posts under that hashtag. And then just find influencers that way. Usually brands would maintain some sort of a spreadsheet to build a list of creators. So you would search, you would save their links, their profiles in some sort of a spreadsheet. And then, DM them, email them, something like that. Finding emails is difficult without a tool like SARAL. But if they have their email publicly available, you can email them, or worst case, just DM them. When you're starting and just looking to get some traction, just shoot your shot in the DMs.
And so when you find, let's say, that list of influencers, maybe certain metrics that are good to be mindful of to say, hey, this influencer might be a better candidate than this other influencer, whether it be like follower count, whether there's certain engagement metrics that you find are really beneficial to look at. Would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah. Never look at follower count. Because so generally in life, don't look at signals that are easy to fake. So if you judge somebody by, let's say, their credentials, let's say like how much they got on an SAT or something like that, right? Like that is relatively easy to fake. That doesn't guarantee performance. What guarantees performance is real world experience. Let's say when you're hiring someone, would you hire someone who has like a graduate from MIT or who's exactly done the same job that you're hiring for successfully before? Like probably the experienced person who has done it before, right? So look at signals that are harder to fake or that are not as easy to fake, right? So in the influencer context, applying that same rule, followers are easy to buy. I could literally buy 10,000 followers in 10 minutes, right? Like it's not complicated. Anybody in social media knows that. Don't look at that. Look at, like you said, engagement rate. Probably a better metric to look at. SARAL, by the way, we also have a free Chrome extension. If anybody wants to use this, and if you're just doing this manually, it's fine. You can just use our Chrome extension. And we've come with another metric called diehard fans. What this does is it calculates because engagement rate is still, if you think about it, it's less easy to fake, but it's also still just likes, right? And a lot of the times, for example, the pages that get the most, that have the highest engagement rate are political pages and meme pages, right? Get the most amount of engagement. But are those people really going to buy? Probably not, right? So we came up with this advanced metric called diehard fans. And this actually tells you, hey, how many of these people who are engaging are likely to take action? We do that analysis. But if you're not using the Chrome extension also, engagement rate is generally a good metric to look at unless you are looking at a meme page or political pages and things like that. I am a big fan of qualitative metrics, by the way. So instead of even looking at the engagement rate, I'll give you two cases, right? There are two influencers with a very high engagement rate. Let's say generally like 7% is considered world-class engagement rate, and they both have 100,000 followers. On paper, like metrics-wise, both these influencers look the same. But when you dive in and you do a qualitative analysis, you would realize that one influencer has comments like, let's say they're posting about a dress because they're working with a fashion brand. And then all the comments are like, you look so beautiful in this. What's this location? You're so pretty. Heart emoji, things like that. Those are all the comments. Very high engagement rate. Similar influencer, same brand, posted about the same dress. And the comments are, yes, there are some comments that say you look so pretty, but most of the comments are, where did you get this? Oh, this is so beautiful. I've always wanted to buy something like this. This is on my Pinterest wall. Where do I get this? Right? So even though they have the same number of comments, the quality of comments is completely different, right? So, and you want to work more with the type of influencer that gets these buying intent comments, as I say, right? So generally there are two types of commenters. There are commenters that comment about the influencer, and there are commenters that comment about themselves or I want this kind of commenters. So you would want to work with influencers who have more of this type of engagement. So yes, look at the number engagement rate. Also look at the quality of engagement that they're getting. So these are some of the things that I would look at.
That was brilliant. And to your point, I love how tangible that was in terms of, hey, here's some quantitative metrics to look at. And then also be mindful of these qualitative metrics as well. These can sometimes be a better indicator.
Yep, totally. Yep.
So within the 6-step framework, I wanted to dive into offers a little bit more. Obviously, the amount that a business can give out for a particular offer to all parties, it's going to vary depending on their profit margin. But I'm curious if you have some general guidance or even just industry specific guidance that you can offer about how to maybe think about structuring those offers, A, for the end audience, let's call them, and B, for the influencer that you're going to be working with.
Yep. Very good question. Yes, there are budget constraints. Like if you're Gymshark, for example, you could pay tens of thousands of dollars for a post, but if you're a new health supplements brand, you probably can't. So the way you structure, especially in e-commerce, is you do an affiliate deal. So you always work on a rev share when you're getting started. The reason for this, and you can make it a very attractive rev share. You could make it 50%, assuming you have the margin for that, right? Especially when starting, because the reason for that is influencers want to support early brands. So especially if you're brand new, influencers love that. So they want to be part of their journey, of your journey. So don't be hesitant to reach out with an affiliate offer as long as it's compelling enough. Don't reach out with a 10%, 5%, because that's not meaningful. So have an affiliate offer is what I recommend. Even if you do have a decent budget, I don't recommend paying influencers up front, because what that does is puts the risk completely in your court, because you're now just betting on this influencer that I'm going to pay them $900 for 2 reels and they're going to get me more than $900 in sales. Probably not going to happen, or in most cases doesn't happen. Right. So you want to affiliate offer de-risks that, right? Because if they get you sales, they make money, you make money. If they don't, and they don't, they get a free product, but that's that. You only lose your cost of goods. You don't lose much with that offer. So that's what I recommend on the influencer side. On the customer side, I recommend usually it's easiest to do a discount, right? You could do a buy one, get one. Doing discounts is good because people like to get a deal on things, even if they're expensive. So even if it's $100 product and you do, which they otherwise might not buy, they might actually buy if you give the same thing for $80, right? Because they're like, I'm getting a deal, it's limited time, let me buy this. So it improves conversion. 2, it improves tracking. In a world where link tracking and there's so many ad blockers and so on, using an influencer's code is direct first party validation that somebody looked at this influencer's post, went on our website and bought a product. And so again, goes both ways. It helps you as a brand in terms of tracking and attribution, and helps the customer because they get a good deal out of the influencer. So that's the general framework that I would recommend for somebody who's starting out, is you have an affiliate component in terms of what you offer the influencer, and the discount in terms of what you offer to their audience.
And now let's say you get a campaign up and running with 3 different influencers. You really emphasize the idea of make sure that you send them the full product experience, make the packaging part of the experience. Because to your point, there's this huge unboxing opportunity that can go on Instagram Reels. It can go on TikTok. And for so many brands, that's a really important part of the brand voice. It's a really important part of like the customer experience is unboxing. What I wanted to ask you about specifically is outside of sending the product or the grouping of products to the influencers, how much free reign do you recommend that businesses give to the influencers? Do you find it's better if brands go to the influencers and say, hey, I want 10 posts. I want them to be about themes A, B, C, D, E, F, so on and so forth. Or is it better just to reach out to the influencer and say, hey, I'm going to send you a couple products. Would love to hear your thoughts on what you think would be great content, and kind of just say, hey, you do your thing. I'll trust you. You're the expert in this space.
Good question. How much free reign you give someone is almost inversely proportional to how much you are paying them. So if you are sending free product and doing an affiliate offer, which is where 90% of the brands listening to this would start, you have very little control over what they say and how they say it and how many times they say it, because you're not giving them anything upfront except for a product, right? So they don't owe you that much. Versus on the other hand, if you were paying them $900 for a reel, you can ask them to say whatever you want. It's unlimited, obviously within a reasonable scope about the product, and they will very likely say it as long as it's true and it's true congruent with their lived experience with the product. So it's this inverse relationship, but generally speaking, even if you're paying them, I would recommend just sharing guidelines or guardrails and not dictating, because you're working with influencers who have, let's just say 20,000 followers. They know what these 20,000 followers want. That's why they have 20,000 followers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have those followers because they will post content that nobody wants to see, right? So they know what resonates with their audience. So don't try to force fit your brand, like talking points or whatever, like your branding agency came up with as your USPs on them. Let them just authentically share what they think. I think that this generally works better than any like sharing talking points or content briefs and things like that. I think those used to work back in the day, but nowadays people, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, people want trust, they want authenticity, and it's not authentic if an influencer is just a puppet for a brand's talking point. So give as much freedom as possible while educating, right? So you might want to say, hey, we're better than X because of these reasons, good for a certain benefit. Let's say we're good for your gut health because of these reasons, and it's tested in labs and it's FDA certified and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you can educate them, but don't try to dictate what they say.
And so to your point, for the founders there that are very focused on their brand voice and the way their product is described, it sounds like it's important to go into it with the understanding of like, hey, the influencer probably isn't going to describe you with the exact like 2-sentence descriptor that you're looking for your brand. Okay. Got to be a little bit open-minded, let them do their thing, let them speak in their own voice.
Correct. Yeah, let the creators create.
I want to switch the conversation to what I would broadly call like the ROI component of influencer marketing. A couple different questions within here that I want to get into. One place I'd love to start out though, for maybe a good way to start out with the ROI component. I would imagine there are a lot of brands that are like too early stages into their influencer marketing to be working with SARAL or any of your guys' competitors. Are there certain signals that you look at in a brand, whether it is amount that they're spending on influencer marketing, whether it's number of man hours that they're putting into it, that at that point you can very comfortably say, hey, you know, whether you work with us, whether you work with a competitor, like you should be using an influencer marketing tool versus maybe like, oh, you guys are way too early stage, do the do-it-yourself system, run this on like an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need anything more robust for the time being.
Usually I've seen the trade-off in terms of time. I won't put it at budget because mostly if you're a new brand, you're going to start with affiliate or free product and you're not going to spend that much on influencer marketing anyway. The way, where I would put it is in terms of time, just time cost, because after a certain point imagine the method that I said, like how do you manually source influencers on Instagram? Doing that manually, lots of copy pasting, able to find their emails, manually emailing them one by one, keeping track, manually updating a spreadsheet when you ship orders and things like that gets very clunky. Usually at around like a dozen or 20, couple dozen influencers is when it gets really wonky and you're spending more time just doing admin work than doing actual work. Generally, and obviously I'm biased, I would recommend you use a tool like SARAL to start because that builds efficiency just like by design. Versus when you switch from a spreadsheet, as what we've seen with brands, is that they tend to still do things manually inside of SARAL, despite having better ways to do it. Like we need to educate them, like, hey, this is actually like you're just wasting 10 hours a week. Why are you doing that? I'm like, oh, I could actually do that. That's unbelievable. And so on. So generally, I recommend starting with any sort of platform. Obviously, I will say SARAL is the best, but do your research, get a nice, affordable, simple platform to start off with. But if you can't do that, and there's totally brands that have made great programs starting off with spreadsheets and then moving on to a platform, generally I see that pain line hitting around like the 15, 20 influencers actively being managed, which also means that they're reaching out to maybe about 50 to 100 influencers a week manually. At that point, you're basically spending your man hours like on wasteful admin activity, which can be automated using a platform like SARAL.
And to your point with the man hour side of things, I want to broadly ask about almost like the timeline to start seeing, maybe we'll just say the timeline to start seeing sales or other core KPIs coming in for the business once you kick off an influencer marketing program. So maybe a good way to ask it would be, if I'm planning on taking the do-it-yourself approach, I'm planning on building this out, how should I look at that time investment and maybe just that general resource investment of how much I should plan to put in, or maybe even how long I should expect until I really start to see some sort of return in all these efforts?
Good question. To be realistic, you're going to see sales probably in month 3, month 4, but the core KPI for an influencer program should never be sales. The reason for that is sales depend on so many other factors. For example, like 2 influencers posting about you is not going to drive the needle. 25 influencers posting about you is probably going to drive the needle, right? So you need volume to see sales, right? Also, influencers as a channel tends to be under-attributed pretty much all the time. Reason why is because people don't click, as much as we talk about tracking and links and so affiliate links and so on, people don't click on links anymore. Like when was the last time you ever clicked on an influencer's link in bio and actually went and bought something? Probably never, right? So people rarely do that. The way consumer behavior works is that you would see an influencer post about a brand, probably going to ignore it. You're going to see it again, like about a week later, another influencer, like you're like, I've seen this before. And then 3 or 4 more influencers post about it. You're like, damn, I need this supplement. And then you're like, wait, I already have my usual supplement fully packed in my kitchen. Probably don't need it right now. And then when your supplement runs out, you're going to be like, what was that brand that everybody was talking about 2 months ago? You're going to Google, you're going to click on a Google ad and buy, right? So like the Google ad now has the tracked conversion, has the attribution, but the demand was driven by all these like 10 influencers who posted about you over the course of 2 months, right? So influencers the dynamics of the channel are just so different that making sales a primary KPI to measure it doesn't make sense. With that sense, the question is, how do we measure it then? The way you measure it is what I recommend is there's a few KPIs, but generally I think measure it by number of posts. So how many posts are you getting on a monthly basis? And a secondary good KPI, especially if you're if you recall back to my predictable influence system, the 6th step was to build good relationships. So if you're building good relationships, people are going to post about you again and again and again. So monitor the total number of posts, but also monitor what we call in SARAL posts per influencer. So you will actually say, hey, this influencer on average, if we onboard an influencer, they post about us 3.5 times. And then over time, ideally that number should go up because you want people to post about you again and again. So generally like framing KPIs and measuring health in terms of number of posts makes a lot of sense because eventually the sales and everything will come, but you'll have to give it at least, 4 to 6 months for that. So that's those sales numbers to start really making sense.
I love that. And to your point, in terms of the ROI side of things, it doesn't sound like it's easy to come up with like a direct ROI component. It sounds like there's a little bit more emphasis that needs to be put on like brand exposure and like the overarching idea of trust. And
yeah. I know that influencer marketers tend to say that, and it is true. Like you do get exposure, you do get impressions and reach and so on. Also, as a founder myself, like I understand that as a business, you have to make money. Like sales is the lifeblood of your brand, right? So you want sales. Don't measure it with sales because sales is a lagging indicator, right? Sales will come after. You can't control sales, basically. Like in 1 month, you will get, let's say, 35 people post and you will make $10,000 in sales. In the next month, you will get 25 people post, but like $15,000 in sales, right? Like sales is not something you control. Sales is just a metric, right? Like it's kind of like sticking to the health example, I guess it's kind of like body fat percentage. Like you can't control that, right? You can only measure it. What you can control is your diet, is your workout routine, right? Is your don't eat junk food. That's what everything you can control. So what you can control is on the influencer side is how well are you treating your influencers? How good is your creator offer? Are your creators actually making money enough so they post about you again and again? Things like that. So those are like the small optimizations you need to do. And the one KPI you should track is number of posts. And then eventually the sales will be there.
And it's funny you bring that up because along those lines, I bought a birthday gift for a buddy last week. And this birthday gift, I kid you not, was based off of a TikTok ad that I saw like probably 10 months ago. What I did is I pulled it up at the time. I took a screenshot on my phone and I had it saved as a screenshot. Here I am 10 months later, I finally make this purchase, which came directly, without a doubt, from this TikTok ad. Yep. But unfortunately, like the TikTok ad doesn't get any sort of revenue credit for that because I had a different method for remembering. And along those lines, this is just sharing tidbits that have come from other guests that have come on the show. For listeners that are looking for a way to maybe like even more predictably monetize from their influencer marketing investments, one of the tidbits that I would offer is think about certainly the offer that you have that you're giving to the influencer, but then maybe take the additional step of crafting an offer that is really easily recognizable on your website. So if you can get that user from that influencer marketing campaign over to your website, you can send them that offer, get them to subscribe to your email list, and then can use email marketing to sell to them down the road. And along those lines, really good episode that we did where both Damon and George shared some really phenomenal insights, 2 different episodes, all about how to structure an email marketing campaign. Definitely give those a listen if you're interested in learning more about kind of that next step of continuing the revenue chain.
On those lines of email marketing, if you don't mind me adding a few influencer bits to that, is that what you can also do to maximize the ROI is take the content of one of our brands did this. Actually, now a few of our brands have done this after I keep talking about this on customer calls. Take the UGC that you get from the creators and use it in your, let's say, abandonment cart emails, right? Like, hey, you left this product in your cart and didn't actually complete checkout. Here are like, you don't have to buy now, but here are 3 influencers talking about us, and just embed, let them play the videos, let them see what influential people in your industry are saying, right? For example, if you're buying something from Athletic Greens and then you don't complete checkout and they retarget you with an email saying, hey, here's what Tim Ferriss says about us. And you already are kind of in the same space. You maybe listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast. You're like, whoa, this is nice. Let me buy it because Tim Ferriss uses it. That same exact dynamic applies when you use like 3 different influencers. Even if the person doesn't know who these influencers are, it still works because it's social proof. It's live video social proof from influencers. So some of our brands have done this, and that's another way to truly maximize the impact of the posts that you're getting from creators.
That's brilliant. Well, we have covered a ton of ground today. I wanted to ask any closing thoughts that you want to share with the audience before we talk about how they can best get in touch with you and kind of wrap up from there.
Yeah, closing thoughts. I think if there is one piece of advice that I can give to brands, is always focus on building long-term relationships with influencers. I think we're at a crucial period in time where the scale is tipping from being very much ad and pushy marketing driven to more pull marketing driven. Like you almost have to attract me, not like push me towards a certain thing. I think this is a very good time to start working with some influencers and building those relationships, because over time, like I said, if you're selling to consumers, you would want trusted advocates for your brand. I think every brand would need this. And I truly believe every brand can get their own unique set of 500 people that vouch for them on social media. And those are what you need. Because every brand ideally is a unique product, and you can have your unique set of influencers who promote you. I think start building that right away, because this is like, it's like Facebook ads 2016 based on what I see. So capitalize on that.
So Yash, A, how can listeners best get in touch with you? And B, where can they go just to learn more about SARAL or other resources that you guys have shared?
Yeah. So find my name, Yash Chavan, anywhere on social media, LinkedIn preferably. I'm pretty much always on there. If you want to check out SARAL, if you want to build an influencer program, go to getsaral.com. check it out. We have a free trial. Let me send you this link later on, but we'll do a 14-day free trial, which is twice the default length on the website for your audience. If you come from the podcast, just click on the link in the show notes and we'll set you up with the longer trial. And yeah, I think like even without that, you don't have to start a trial, but we have a great content library. So if you go to our website, again, that's getsaral.com. In the nav bar, you'll see Academy. Just click on that. There's tons of free resources, everything we discussed on this podcast, how to find influencers, exact step-by-step workflows, email templates, offer examples, things like that. So just use that even if you're just DIYing it. I think our content will be very helpful.
Well, Yash Chavan, everyone, the founder and CEO over at SARAL. Yash, thank you for coming on today.
Appreciate you coming on, Pat. This was great.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.